After waking up from a nightmare where he sees his late brother Max dying inside a volcano, a professor named Trevor decides to leave for work. When he gets to work, his research assistant Leonard tells him that his colleague Alan is waiting for him. As soon as they meet, Alan says the university is pulling the plug on Max's lab, which is where Trevor currently works. Trevor doesn't believe this, and he begs Alan not to do this because the lab is the only thing he has left of Max. However, Alan says Max's work on volcanoes is no longer relevant, and using the lab is a waste of resources. He also says it's been 10 years since Max's death, and Trevor has to move on. Trevor feels bad about this, and after work, he heads home. As he thinks about what Alan told him, he gets a voicemail from Max's wife, Elizabeth, telling him that she's already bringing her son, Shawn, to his place just as planned. Trevor has forgotten about their arrangement, and he quickly starts clearing his untidy house. Before he finishes, Elizabeth shows up at his door with Shawn, who doesn't look too impressed with the idea of staying with his uncle while his mom travels to Canada. Before leaving, Elizabeth says Shawn will be joining her in Canada in 10 days, and Trevor will have to drop him off at the airport. Trevor agrees, and just then, she hands him a box of Max's old stuff. After she leaves, Trevor and Shawn head into the house. Trevor starts checking the box, and as Shawn asks about it, his uncle tells him it's his dad's box. Shawn says his mom doesn't talk about him much, but Trevor says Max was one of the most exceptional people he knew. As he goes through the box, he gives Shawn a yo-yo belonging to his dad. He also finds a book titled The Journey to the Center of the World, written by a man named Vernay. Trevor says the book was more than science fiction to Max, and it was like an inspiration. As Trevor goes through the book, he sees some of Max's notes and notices that they're similar to his current readings on volcanoes around the world. He immediately tells Max that they have to get to his lab, and as they get there, Trevor confirms that the readings are the same. It also intrigues him that Max's readings were from the time he suddenly got missing. Trevor keeps looking at Max's notes, and before he knows what's happening, he gets a notification from a sensor in a mountain in Iceland, which starts to blink on his computer. He takes Shawn back home and tells his nephew that he has to go to Canada immediately. Shawn doesn't get this because he's not expected there until another 10 days. However, Trevor says he's going to Iceland to learn more about Max's work. He also mentions that he and Max's work is based on the belief that there are volcanic tubes leading to the center of the world. Shawn says he wants to come along because it's his dad's work, and even though Trevor doesn't agree at first, they eventually leave together. While on the plane, Trevor continues to check out Max's notes, and as he tries to decode some clues, Shawn helps him. They eventually figure out that the clues point to the name of someone called Sigurbjorn Asgeirsson. Shawn then checks the name online and finds out the person is the director of an institute for volcanic studies. As they land, they decide to find the institute, and after a while, they finally get there. Trevor knocks on the door, and a lady named Hannah answers it. He introduces himself and says he's looking for Sigurbjorn. However, Hannah says the man was her father, and he has been dead for a while now. She also mentions that the institute is no longer functional because it was a failure. Hannah still welcomes them in, and as she offers them something to drink, Trevor shows her Vern's book, saying his brother left clues pointing to her father in it. Hannah says she knows the book and that her father was a die-hard fan of Vernay. She adds that she couldn't believe how her father believed the things in the book, even though Vernay was a science fiction writer. She also brings out her father's copy, which shows Trevor and Shawn that Max and Sigurbjorn had the same notes. Trevor then mentions that he came to Iceland with Shawn because he got an alert from a seismic sensor in a nearby mountain. Luckily, Hannah turns out to be a mountain guide, and she offers to take them there as long as they pay for her services. Trevor agrees to pay, and shortly after, they begin their trip to the mountain. As they're walking to the top, Shawn asks about the mountain, and Trevor tells him that in Vern's book, it's the same mountain where a character found a portal to the center of the earth. They then keep on walking until they find the seismic sensor. Before Trevor can get it out of the ground, the sky gets cloudy, and Hannah says they have to take cover before lightning strikes. As she takes Shawn and runs to a cave, Trevor still insists on taking the sensor because it could help him understand what happened to Max. Shortly after, he gets it out, but eventually throws it away because the sensor keeps attracting lightning to his side. Before things turn worse, he runs to meet Shawn and Hannah inside a cave, which lightning strikes until the entrance is blocked. Shawn suggests removing the stones blocking the entrance, but because there are too many, Trevor says they need to find another exit. Hannah then mentions that it's good that she packs some essentials, including ropes, flares, and protein bars. As they then walk around inside the cave, Trevor almost falls into a mine shaft, but Hannah saves him. She then finds a signpost with the words, "Keep out" on it. With this, she mentions that the mine shaft might be their only way out. Trevor decides to check how deep it is, but as he lights one of Hannah's flares, it causes an explosion. They still remain unhurt, but Trevor realizes that the magnesium residues in the rocks caused the explosion. Because of how flammable the chemical is, Hannah gives him a torch instead, and he throws it down, and discovers that the mine shaft is quite deep. Following this, the three of them use ropes to start going down. Shawn looks scared while he's lowering himself, but Hannah encourages him. Suddenly, Trevor loses his balance and starts dangling. It also affects Hannah and Shawn, and they tell Trevor to quickly hold onto the wall before they fall badly. Trevor struggles to do this, and Hannah says she has to cut him loose. Despite his protests, Hannah cuts the rope, but luckily, he's already close to the ground. He then looks relieved and wonders if Hannah knew he was close to the ground when she cut the rope. Shortly after, they find an old mine tunnel where Hannah sees a generator and turns it on. They then see a track and believe it should lead them outside. As they're about to leave in a mine cart, Trevor doesn't sound so sure of the plan, but Hannah says everything will be fine. The cart then starts moving, but not long after, they're left terrified when they see a gap between the tracks. Hannah moves the cart as fast as she can, and luckily, they get past and land safely on the other side of the track. At this point, the track splits into 3 parts, and as they all go separate ways, Trevor tells Hannah and Shawn to remain calm. Suddenly, Hannah sees that her track is about to end, so she jumps into Trevor's cart. A while later, they then have to jump out together when his track is about to end. Shawn also stops his cart safely, after which he walks into a place where he sees several shiny crystals, including diamonds. As he picks some of them, they hear the floor cracking. Just then, Trevor realizes that they're standing on a thin rock form called muscovite. He tells Hannah and Shawn to ensure they move slowly so that the floor doesn't break. However, one of the diamonds falls from Shawn's bag, and this causes the floor to break, after which the 3 of them fall down. They eventually land inside a pool of water, and while Trevor and Shawn swim to a nearby rock, Hannah struggles to move well. Trevor eventually goes back to save her, and while they're looking at the ceiling, they see some glowing birds flying around. Trevor looks surprised as he says the birds have been extinct on Earth for over 150 million years. Before he can say much, the birds lead them through a tunnel to the center of the Earth. Trevor sounds excited as he says Max turned out to be right. Hannah also realizes that her dad was right, but she still looks confused. As they then walk around, Trevor reads some parts of Vern's book out loud and confirms that everything in the book is real. He adds that someone else had likely been there before them and had also provided their notes to Vern, who then used them to publish his book. Shortly after, they find a cave, and as Trevor and Shawn go in, Hannah says she wants to walk around for a while. Inside the cave, Trevor and Shawn discover that someone has lived there before. As they go through everything inside there, Shawn finds a book with some notes on the center of the world. As he wonders who could have written it, Trevor compares Max's copy of Vern's book and sees that the notes are similar, meaning Max was the one who used to live there. Just then, Hannah calls Trevor and tells him that she has found Max. As he then goes there with Shawn, they see Max's grave. Shawn looks sad as he says he never got to know his dad, but Trevor then reads him apart in Max's book where he said he wishes he could trade all he has achieved just to watch his son grow up. Shortly after, they return to the cave, and there, they decide to follow Max's plan to escape. According to his notes, Max explains that there's a river up north that could lead them to the surface. He also mentions that the temperature in the place increases rapidly and they need to get out before it gets hotter. As they wonder how they'll pass through the ocean and find the river, Shawn shows them a page from Vern's book, and this gives them the idea to start making a wooden sail raft. While at it, Trevor gives a compass to Shawn, saying it was Elizabeth's gift to Max to remind him that he needs to find his way back home. Trevor then teaches Shawn how to use it and tells him to keep it. A while later, they get the raft ready and then use the sail to leave the beach. As they keep going, Trevor notices that the temperature is getting hot, but he tells Hannah and Shawn that they'll make it out in time. Meanwhile, Shawn notices a weird fish inside the ocean. As Trevor says it's unlikely that there's any living creature in the water, the fish jumps out and attacks them on the raft. They, however, fight back and avoid getting hurt. In the process, they also realize that a weird sea creature is trying to eat the fish, so they get out of the way and continue to head north. However, Hannah gets hurt while pulling the sail, and Trevor runs to check on her. In place of them, Shawn takes control of the sail, but as he sees that it's about to get loose, he tries to grab both sides simultaneously. Unfortunately, the sail still gets loose, and it drags Shawn away, leaving Hannah and Trevor quite terrified. Shawn eventually makes it to land safely, and as he gets thirsty, one of the glowing birds shows up and leads him to where he can get water. Meanwhile, Hannah and Trevor have also made it to land. Trevor remains worried about Shawn, but Hannah says there's nothing to be worried about because his nephew is a smart boy, and they'll eventually find him. As they sit to relax, they are attacked by human-eating plants. One of them almost strangles Hannah, but Trevor is right there to rescue her. He also helps kill off the other plants. Elsewhere, Shawn keeps following the glow bird towards the river that could lead him home. On his way, he is left with no choice but to pass through some magnetic rocks. Despite looking scared, Shawn manages to get through safely, after which he continues to find the river as well as Trevor and Hannah. On his way, he ends up in a field with the bones of large creatures. Suddenly, he starts hearing the sound of an animal heading towards him, so he hides. Meanwhile, Trevor tells Hannah to save herself and get back to the surface through the river because he doesn't want anything to happen to her. Even though she doesn't want to leave him since she now likes and cares for him, Trevor convinces her to leave. Before Shawn can think of what to do next, he sees a large dinosaur and starts running before he gets caught. He eventually hides in a cave, but while the dinosaur struggles to get to him, Trevor hears him calling for help. After breaking the wall on the other side of the cave, Trevor saves Shawn, but they still have to run from the dinosaur. Unfortunately, the large creature doesn't stop, but Trevor then comes up with a plan. While he tells Shawn to keep running on normal land, he sees a floor made of muscovite and runs towards it. As he runs on it, the dinosaur follows him, but its weight eventually causes it to fall to its death. Trevor almost falls too, but he manages to survive. He and Shawn then head over to the river, and as they wonder how they'll make it past, Hannah shows up while paddling the mouth of a giant creature. She says she couldn't leave them alone, and just then, Trevor and Shawn join her. While she's paddling towards a tunnel, the ride gets bumpy as they hit the riverbed until they land just above the lava of a volcano. Trevor looks shocked because there's supposed to be a passage of water into the tunnel to help push their ride to the surface. As he laments that there's no way out for them, Hannah notices that there's water inside the rocks beside him. He confirms this and also finds magnesium residues on the rocks. With this, he decides to use the flares to blow up the rock. However, after trying the first two flares, his plan doesn't work. With the last flare, he tells Hannah and Shawn to lower him with a rope so he can blow up a part with more magnesium residue. They do just this, and he throws the flare next to the rock, but just as it's about to cause an explosion, fire goes out. Trevor is disappointed by this, but before he can do anything else, the rock catches fire again. As it explodes and pours water into the lava, Trevor returns to meet Hannah and Shawn. Just then, the lava gets hotter, and its steam rises to push Trevor, Hannah, and Shawn back to the surface. They come out of a mountain in Italy and end up crashing a part of a nearby farm. As the farmer shows up to complain, Shawn brings out a small bag filled with diamonds and gives one to him. He looks intrigued and tells Shawn and the others that they can destroy more parts of his farm if they want. Trevor and Hannah are also surprised that Shawn took some diamonds with him, but he jokes that he needed them as samples for his research. Days later, Trevor arrives at his lab and catches Leonard looking for a job. He, however, tells his assistant not to do that because he's setting up his own lab soon. Leonard is happy with this, but Alan is already around to send Trevor out of the lab. Just then, Trevor tells Alan that he doesn't need the lab anymore because he's planning to get his own building. As Alan asks how he'll do that, he says he fell into a small fortune. The next day, Trevor and Hannah prepare to take Shawn to the airport. Before he leaves, Trevor gives him one of Max's other favorite books, and he looks happy to take it. Trevor then suggests that they could hang out again whenever he's free, and Shawn agrees. As he then appears to be feeding his pet inside his bag, Trevor asks what it is, and Shawn shows him a glowing bird. While Trevor and Hannah are shocked, Shawn asks his uncle if his mom would let him keep it. Trevor says he doesn't know because the bird might not want to be a pet. Just as he says this, the bird starts flying away even though Shawn tries to get it back.